When we think of successful women in America, we think of AOC, Ivanka Trump, and of course, Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. Yes, I'm talking about the movie. We all know the story of Elle Woods, peppy sorority girl turned ambitious lawyer. It all started when her boyfriend broke up with her, saying, if I'm going to be a senator by the time I'm 30, I need to marry a Jackie, not a Marilyn. As if he deserved either, but I digress. Elle needs to be considered successful for her boyfriend, for her parents, and for the world. So she did exactly that. She tried to become a Jackie. Despite the expectations on her to be nothing more than a dumb blonde, or a Marilyn if you will, she broke the mold and got accepted into Harvard Law. The Harvard Law. She even solved a murder before it was all said and done. What, like it's hard? Still, Elle's long-held dream wasn't to be a lawyer. It was to marry the man of her dreams. And ultimately, she did that too. Obviously not the jerk from before. Elle Woods proved to the world that she could be both a Jackie and a Marilyn. Jackie to us represents success, going to law school, entering STEM fields, or being a CEO. In today's world, we work so hard to support women and to create equality that we have turned feminism into hyperfeminism. We've begun to believe that traditional roles are not enough. Marilyn isn't enough. We tell women, you can be successful or you can be a traditionalist, but you cannot be both, trapping women in a mental box. This is a problem that's affecting not only women and girls, but our society as a whole. So today, we'll investigate the evidence for how we impose a one-size-fits-all standard of success on women. Then we will take our case to court and present the causes and effects of hyperfeminism on women and girls today. And finally, we will follow in Elle's footsteps, solve our case, and finally break the Jackie versus Marilyn stereotypes. Because let's be honest, confining women is so last season. First, let's examine how we got here. It's clear that women's rights have come a long way since the 1970s, so much so that we are proud to call ourselves feminists. Considering this, one would think that women are more liberated, more fulfilled, and more content today. On the contrary, according to women's ratings in a national analysis done by economists Betsy Stevenson and Justin Wolfers for the Institute of Labor Economics, women are less happy, both in absolute terms and in comparison to men. This widening gap is not caused by a lack of equality. The problem instead is with how we define success. Since the rise of hyperfeminism, we have warped the meaning of success to mean be a man. We think it helps women, but it does the opposite. It hurts women. What of the stay-at-home mom or the woman who wants to be a stylist, nurse, or teacher? What of the woman who frequently takes time off her career so that her kids can get to soccer practice, piano lessons, and dance recitals? You see, these women are trying to be there for their families and to feel their own sense of fulfillment. For instance, take my mother. She's a full-time nurse. Ever since I was young, she would always work the night shift so that during the day she could spend time with us. Sometimes she would work 12-hour shifts on zero sleep because I somehow couldn't get how to multiply 10 times 10. Don't worry, I got it now. It's 101, right? Society acts like being a mother is easy. But let me tell you, my mother got a full-on demon child. From pepper spraying the whole house to putting tin foil in the microwave, it was not easy. And somehow I'm still alive today, so obviously my mother is successful. Yet, in the eyes of hyperfeminism, she's a victim of the patriarchy. Women like my mother today, who find value in nurturing and caring for others, are seen as housemaids, victims, and damsels in distress, in desperate need of rescuing. What if Rapunzel didn't want to be saved from her ivory tower? I wouldn't. The only downside is not being able to Uber Eats your food, but then again, throw in a few Zoom meets and sweatpants, and voila, you have 2020. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, allow me to bring your attention to the underlying cause of this issue, our failed attempt at equality. When we think of traditional femininity, we think of gracefulness, gentleness, and sensitivity. On the other hand, traditional masculinity relies on dominance, stoicism, aggression, and competitiveness. In an attempt to prove the error in gender roles, we have forced women to take on the same traits as men, telling women that their feminine traits are not enough, that in fact, they somehow perpetuate gender stereotypes. So instead of erasing our own stereotypes, we tell women to fit into our perception of a man, to be a Jackie. What's worse, the same kind of thinking is affecting men as well. Stay-at-home dads are looked down on and seen as lazy or unproductive. We have warped the meaning of success for it to be synonymous with a job. So, men who decide not to be the breadwinners as society demands are ostracized from society. The harmony of each household is thrown off balance. We pit men and women against each other for what gain? You see, this issue is not men versus women. We've lost sight of equality, so instead we've shifted our stereotypes to harm both. For women, it's not enough to be a teacher, mother, or wife. Some women do like to take on other demanding careers, and that's great, but we should not be forcing women into life choices just to satisfy arbitrary societal standards. In trying to destroy gender roles for men and women, we have jumped to the extreme opposite, telling women to be men, demanding that women forsake their feminine sides for masculine traits. In a study by researchers Paul Costa and Robert McCree across 26 diverse cultures, women and men's ratings of their desires and aspirations were polar opposites. In other words, women instinctively want different things than men do. Forcing women to abide by the standards of men will lead to higher anxiety and a lack of fulfillment. It explains why the Anxiety and Depression Association of America tells us that women are more than twice as likely as men to have had depression, and more than 2 times as likely to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. For example, take Exhibit A. My older brother wants to go into STEM fields, so naturally, ever since I was young, I've always been guided toward the same path. I've always believed that the only way to truly make use of my parents' sacrifices was to be a lawyer. But then I started high school, and that's when it hit me. I had to do this for 4 whole years, and then 4 years after that in college, and then at least 3 in law school. And no, it wouldn't stop there. I would spend the rest of my life behind a desk doing paperwork. I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like a dreadful existence. My dream has never been to be a lawyer. My dream has always been to have a family of my own. So for me, I know that I would be much more content managing my own home than I would ever be at a 9-to-5 job. Still, to appease society, I settled for more socially acceptable goals. Only then could I be enough for society, and my culture specifically. Girls like me everywhere are left empty and meaningless because our aspirations are seen as frivolous in the eyes of society. Our desires are stripped from us. Our very natures are denied us in the name of feminism. So let's solve this case once and for all. Let's, as a society, redefine success to mean doing what you love. Now, if you're like me, our desires are influenced so heavily by society that we no longer know what we truly want. So I encourage you, regardless of who you are, to reconsider your goals. A 2016 study shows that journaling increases self-awareness. So, every day, take a few minutes to write about your own thoughts. Over time, you will look in the mirror and see not what society demands, but what you desire. You will see someone who is truly herself with no reserve. Elle Wood said it herself, "You must always have faith in yourself." To my sisters who are engineers, lawyers, doctors, or CEOs, if you are doing what you love, I applaud you for it. Because we must remind ourselves that every choice is valid. In this, we give our friends, sisters, and daughters the opportunity to truly know themselves. We must support her whether she wants to be a doctor, engineer, teacher, or mother. Because feminism means supporting women, regardless of the path they choose to take. Women and girls today should not be told be a man, but instead be you. Elle Woods teaches us some very important lessons. These lessons are important to society and to women. First, there is no such thing as too much pink. Second, Elle Woods understood the importance of creating her own success, rather than seeking validation from others. We together can begin to support women despite the prevalent hyperfeminism. We can show the world true feminism. You do not have to be a Jackie or Marilyn. You can be a Jackie, you can be a Marilyn, you can be both, or you can be neither. You do not need to be the person that satisfies the world. Be the person that satisfies you. Together, little by little, we women can change the world.